Hi, everyone. I'm Michele Tracy Berger, and I'm sharing some ideas that I hope will support you as you think about what you want for 2024 in terms of your writing life. And I'm talking about them as how to cultivate superpowers for your writing life. I'm going to share a little bit about what that's looked like for me, what those superpowers are, what those superpowers have looked like for some of my clients, and I'm going to invite you to join me in my online course that's opening just a couple of weeks called Chart Your Path to Publication. And I feel like that course really supports writers in some new and exciting ways and really helps them have much more joy in the writing process and the submission process. But I'll get to that. And I'll get to the flash sale that I'm doing in just a moment. So I want to share with you a little bit about where I started as a writer. And I think this is an area that maybe some of you are struggling with or have had experience. So I've wanted to write for a long, long time. I wrote in college. I went on to get a PhD, not in writing, but in political science. And I thought, I loved being the idea of being a professor, and I loved having an academic career. And I thought, my creative writing life will just expand, right? That did not happen. I had some strange ideas about what it meant to be a full-time academic and a full-time scholar. So I found myself in the early 2000s, 40 years old, and rewriting a 400,000 word novel. Yes, you heard me right, a 400,000 word novel. And I just kept rewriting the first part of it. I did go to writing conferences. I sort of followed craft books, but I didn't have literary community. And two, I just kept making similar mistakes. I just thought, okay, I'm clever enough. I should be able to figure this out. I made similar craft mistakes and I wasn't really submitting my work. And my mindset, most importantly, became it's never going to happen for me. I would walk into a Borders bookstore. I know I'm dating myself, and really feel a lot of feelings of envy and hostility to other published writers. And I just found like I wasn't having a lot of joy in my writing. And I just felt like I was metaphorically in the basement, just with my novel. And sometimes I would send out excerpts to agents, and the agents would want to see more of it, but I wasn't doing that very consistently. So my new story that has just really flourished in the last 15 years is that I'm a published writer, traditionally published writer, even though I'm working on doing some indie self-publishing work, but primarily traditionally published. I write across many different genres. My love is speculative fiction, so horror, science fiction, contemporary fantasy, things that are weird, things that, extraordinary things that happen to ordinary people, is how I like to frame it, and things that can't happen with the laws of the universe that we know. Um, and I do a lot of psychological horror that really gets at issues of race and gender in particular. But I also write creative nonfiction and have been published as a poet. So I have a pretty broad background. I'm a scholar, and I'm also a creativity coach. And my new story became one where I really had to learn the process of submission in terms of how to submit my work. I had to learn about the how to navigate the very volatile nature of publishing. And along the way, I also developed a coaching practice called the Creative Tickle. And my tagline is to tickle your genius awake. And I work with creatives from many areas of life, but particularly writers, and specifically helping writers around removing blocks that keep their magic dimmed, really. That, somewhere along the line, there was a dream stomper or someone took away people's ability to think of themselves as creative. And so we get all these, there's all these inner critics and perfectionism, procrastination. So I work with writers and creatives around breaking those cycles. And I do it in really fun and enjoyable ways. So after learning more about how to submit my work and how to be kind of a savvy, what I call a savvy submitter, I was getting published, and I became really a student of submission in particular, which I'll talk a little bit about. But so I've had a long history. I've had a coaching practice since 2004, and I've been, published writer now for a while. I've had a long history of working with writers and working with creatives and the things that they get hung up on, particularly around submitting their work and navigating the publishing world. So I want to say a little bit about this sense of author mindset in relation to that. So what got me to a different level in terms of my own writing career was I went to a workshop by one of my writing mentors, and I'll never forget. She said, the way you are able to move in the world as a writer is, you build literary community, and writers are generous and they help each other out. And then she asked us if we had gotten to 99 submissions, and 99 basically rejections. And I was sitting there and I was really taken aback because I was like, and she said, that's being a writing apprentice. That's how you make your way in the world, as a writing apprentice, by receiving 99 rejections. And I just could not wrap my head around it. And I thought, of course I have been submitting my work. And of course I've earned 99 rejections. I was like, of course I had. And I went home after the workshop and I went through, so this is a while ago when I still had paper trails, and I counted up all of my rejections because I had been writing for a long time and submitted my work for a while. Counted up all my rejections because I was going to prove my teacher wrong. I was going to prove it was not because I was not submitting enough and I had not done enough writing apprenticeship. It was, something else, right? Like the fates were against me, and why can't she give me the magic formula? Well, lo and behold, when I tallied up all the things that in my mind, I've been, submitting a lot. I had probably like 50, maybe, rejections from my submissions out of years of submitting. And that was one of the flashbulb moments that really taught me that if you're not submitting, if you don't have a process for submitting, you're probably not going to reach your larger goals and aims. Submitting and understanding the process of submitting is such an important piece. And it's really something that people just tell you to just do it. Other writers just go and do it. And there's not a lot of resources on actually how to submit one's work, how to submit to a short story, a journal that will publish short stories, how to submit proposals to agents. And so I became, at that point, a student of the submission process. So learning how to submit and doing it well is, I think, a core superpower. And in my journey over the many years, I would say submitting one's work and also building literary community, which is also really, really important. But submitting one's work is, in understanding publishing, it's not just about that, hitting send. It's really, why are you submitting, right? Making a plan to submit and a plan for rejection. So reasons for submitting can vary a lot. Some people do it. I mean, some people are doing it, depending on your traditional side or indie side, self-published, you might want resources, right? That's a normal thing as a writer. But there's other reasons to submit. People submit also for status and prestige, and that can look differently depending on if you're traditionally published or indie published. So that's a big piece that people don't talk about. The other key thing is you need a plan. So when you become successful, you need a plan for how to submit. You got to track things, you got to know how to do that. And really, when I struggled for so many years, and I'm on a mission really to create some shortcuts for writers so that they have more joy, they have more success, and dealing with this volatile, really kind of in some ways hidden world of publishing. And then I believe you also need a plan for rejection. And we don't talk very much about that. We don't talk about the emotional processes that that come with rejection and how to navigate that. And also, rejection can look a lot of ways. If you're doing depending on how you're submitting your work, you can get a revise and resubmit, which is a type of rejection, even though it's a good thing. And how do you approach that? You can get more personalized rejections and understanding what that means. So really understanding this process for submitting is, I think, a superpower. And it's one that if you don't have, and if you want to do something different for 2024, keep listening because I'm going to give you some suggestions. But so understanding, why are you submitting? And if you're not submitting, what's stopping you? Usually it's fear. Usually it's not understanding the rules, right? And let me just say that there's not a standardized set of mechanisms. So if you're submitting to a literary journal, that their requirements on how to submit very different than if you're submitting for an anthology or a journal that takes flash um, memoir or flash creative nonfiction. So there's not a standardization. So you kind of need to know and understand what that means. And then if you're pitching to agents and submitting work to them, those are a different set of rules. So that's a lot to learn over time. This idea of prepping the asset. So, depending on, in order to get our, materials ready to submit, we have to be doing the writing. So in my course, Chart Your Path to Publication, I talk a lot about how do you prep the asset, which is a wonderful term by Honoré Corder, who's a wonderful writer and podcaster and coach. And she talks about this idea of we have to really prep ourselves. We have to get ourselves ready and we have to have the intention so that when we sit down, we're not distracted. So maybe you're doing that, but if you're not doing that, you're really missing that going to the next level. So there are all sorts of things too about, what to do before you submit. Can you make, because an editor who's looking at your work, so I've been published with short stories, I have a novella published, I have a short story collection due in the middle of 2024. I've published in anthologies. So I have a wide range, and I will tell you that, and I've also been a judge for writing contests, that an editor looks at your work as it's coming in, and they're looking at those first 250 words. And an agent maybe is looking at the first 2 or 3 pages. So there are things that before you submit that you need to make sure your work stands up and has a clarity. And so in the Chart Your Path to Publication course, I talk about that, and I give you some great examples of how to make that one shot that you're having with a particular editor or agent meaningful. But I really also think that cultivating the superpower of submitting and learning about publishing is making you more visible as a writer, right? You want to find your readers, whether you're traditionally published or indie published or self-published. You got to make yourself visible, and submission is key, right? Uploading that work if you're on the self-published side. And a lot of self-published or indie writers think that they don't necessarily need to worry about this kind of work because that's so you're on the traditional publishing side. But what I've seen with indie writers and the people that I've worked with over time, many indie writers will get approached by people doing short story collections, people, other editors and publishers, and they need to know what the rules are. So if you're just solely on the indie side and you think this doesn't apply to you, that's not true. So, but thinking about yourself as, being more visible so you can find your readers and you can be in community, right? That's what we do all this for. And you want to think about too, what type of writer are you? Where are you on the spectrum? Are you an emerging writer where you have not published anything, but you're submitting? Maybe you're just a step before that where you are trying to finish work and you're just learning about how to submit your work. And maybe you're an intermediate or experienced writer, and there's always more to learn on this journey. And maybe you're going to take your work from one medium to another, and so you kind of have to rebalance and think about what that means. So again, thinking about those broader reasons for why you want to submit and understanding how submission can work for you. There's also sequences of writing success, I think both on the traditional side and on the indie side. And they have changed over the years. It used to be on the traditional side, you you could submit work that was maybe a little bit more in process. And publishers, traditional publishers, both big and small, they had more people on staff, so they had more people to do developmental editing and work with a writer in terms of crafting, developing the story. Agents also were more willing to do that. That's not true anymore. So you want to understand where are you on that sequence of success in terms of finishing the work, vetting it properly, being in community, getting feedback, submitting it, and submitting it to more than one place, and then also having a platform to find your community. Because once something gets published, the editor, the publisher, the agent is going to want you to be in relationship to that process of spreading the word, right? And a platform can look a lot of different ways. It can mean a lot of different things, but really finding ways that people can engage with you in your work. And on the more self-published or on the indie side, that sequence of success looks a little bit different in that you're usually working with professionals. You're working with cover design people. Once you have your book finished, you're working with professional editors, cover design people. You might work with a marketing person, and then you're putting it up there. But then the marketing for you continues. So you kind of get into the mix a little bit earlier, but still, you're still in this larger process of submitting work, getting feedback, and then cultivating, your readership. And so also in finishing up, dealing with rejection is such a big piece of what we do. And, one of my mentors said, if you're not getting rejected, then you're not stretching far enough. And that is wonderful as a concept, but, we can be stymied and stuck sometimes when we get a rejection. And I'm always trying to ask my clients, what makes you stop? Is it one rejection? Is it 5 rejections? Is it 25? Is it 100? And what we know about most successful writers, they have to go through the process of submitting and getting rejected and learning from that and not being stymied by that, but continuing on. So these are some of the things that are really important with author mindset. I want to share with you a bit about my offering that I would love to support you in this next phase of your writing career. I wanted to create a shortcut that allows writers to go to the next level. And so, as I've been saying, my course really is a roadmap to help you move through in an expert and joyous way based on my longstanding experience as a writer and also as a coach. And I'm going to teach you about how to beat the odds of rejection. So to understand it's a process, but also what can you do in putting your materials together that's going to lower those odds. You're going to learn how to select markets. That's another thing that usually keeps people not really getting the visibility that they desire. They don't really know how to find the markets, or they don't know what markets, or they also don't know how much to submit, when to submit. So in my course, I go through all of those things with lots of real great examples. As I said, the reason why I created this course is that there's not much out there. And I was just struggling for years and years and years prior to hearing about the 99 rejection idea and then implementing it and becoming, my career just took off after that in so many powerful ways, and so many other things, so many other wonderful things emerged when I became more visible as a writer. There's not a lot of work out there about how to submit and the many, many different layers, how to craft relationships with editors, all of those pieces. So you're going to learn that in this course. You're going to learn how to build those relationships. You're going to learn how to find appropriate venues, how to track your submissions, why it's important to track submissions, learn a little bit about intellectual property rights, and really cultivating that resilient author mindset. So this is what it looks like. It's fabulous. It's such a great value for what you're getting for the transformation. So, imagine what that will feel like when I've had writers take my course who were never published before, poets and memoirists and fiction writers who just have so much success after this course. What's that going to feel like for you to get to that next level? So the course is $397, the investment in yourself. It has 4 main modules, which each have different videos. It's all online. It's self-paced. So you learn about what to do before you submit. You get to learn, I like to call it the ABCs of submitting and publishing. What are the tools of the trade? Cover letters and query letters and bios. And you learn the different ways to use them, why they're important, how to find your markets that will buy your work, right? Because we want to be paid for our work. That's really important. And then author mindset, as I've been talking about, how to submit, how much to submit, how to face rejection, and on goal setting, not boring traditional goal setting, but like intentionality, how to align your thoughts, your words, and your deeds with your vision for yourself, and really understanding your values as a writer and how that can show up in what you think about next steps. So such a great time. This is such a great time of the year to have access to this kind of work. Then you're also going to get a specialized submission tracker to make it easy for you to track those submissions. And there's more. So there's the submission tracker, and then you get to have a live Q&A with me on Saturday, January 27th, 2024. We're going to have a great time. You're going to bring your questions. So the course opens on January 5th, and you'll get modules every few weeks, and you can work at it with your own pace. And by that point, by the time January 27th comes, you'll have a lot of questions for me. You can, I want you to be there live if you can, but if you can't, that's okay. You can send in questions ahead of time. But wait, I have a fast action bonus for you. I've just added so much more value to the Chart Your Path to Publication course. Not only do you get the bite-sized lessons, not only do you get additional videos on how to deal with inner critics and how to write better and faster, and that's not oxymoronic. You get 2 co-writing sessions. So maybe you're someone who has a little bit of challenge getting started, sitting down to finish a piece or get the piece moving along for what you want to submit, whether it's a proposal or a query letter. Well, I have some news for you. I have 2 great co-writing sessions set up in January. This is a new feature of this course. They will be facilitated by folks that I've trained. You get to do a nice warm-up, mindful reflection that will ease you into the writing, and then you'll write through Zoom without cameras on, without and being muted, but you'll kind of come easy into the space. You'll write, and then you'll have a way to take a break and continue a little bit more writing. It's going to be fabulous. And this is a VIP bonus for those who join us by December 31st, which is right around the corner. You get to have access to this amazing goal setting workshop, how to set writing goals that you love. So this goes beyond what's in the course. This is a specialized video that I've created that goes into so many creative ways of how to set goals that you're just gonna, this is just gonna enliven and enrich you in so many ways. And then you get to have a specialized time with me. I'm calling it the Envision Lab. So you get to do the work a little bit ahead of time, and then you come, and then we're gonna, dig into your goals. You're gonna come with material after having watched the video. We're gonna then help you craft these life-affirming, amazing writing goals that are gonna support you. So that's the Envision Lab piece. So it's not like you just watch something and then it's one and done. You're gonna come and be with everyone and be in community. So your superpowers in terms of developing them are learning how to submit well, being a savvy submitter, learning about the publishing world, having literary community. So I've built this course so that even though it's self-designed, that live community call with me and then this Envision Lab is going to allow you to have some connection to other writers, which is going to be fabulous. And when we're all in a room together, amazing things happen. So you'll see all the details below in the link, and you have that VIP bonus up until December 31st Pacific time, 11:59 p.m. And I thank you so much for watching this video. Whether you join me or not, I hope you do join me because this is a great investment for you. transformational value, $397. The value is over $1,000. Um, whether you join me or not, I hope you do. Most importantly, take control of your writing life and make yourself more visible. Develop and cultivate your superpowers because the world needs your writing. It needs your work. And, um, you know, don't hide anymore.